You know what it's like. Lying awake at night, mind still running, replaying something that happened 3 days ago, rehearsing something that hasn't happened yet, turning a problem over and over, like if you just think about it one more time, something will finally click. But it never does. You wake up tired, not from what you did, from what you thought about. And somehow, despite all that thinking, you're still in the same place, still weighing it, still waiting, still not moving. That feeling has a name, and today we're going to talk about what it really is and what you can do instead. Most people think overthinking is a concentration problem or a discipline problem. It isn't. Overthinking is what happens when the mind tries to do something motion was designed to handle. It's the brain reaching for certainty in a world that doesn't offer it and mistaking analysis for action. Here's what makes it so hard to spot. It feels useful. It feels responsible. You're being thorough. You're being careful. You're not just jumping in. You're thinking it through. But look closer. That same thought you've turned over 100 times. What has it given you that the first 10 times didn't? That plan you've revised again and again, is it actually better now or just more familiar? Overthinking is fear wearing the mask of preparation. It says, I just need a little more information. But what it means is, I'm afraid of getting it wrong. And that fear isn't stupid. It comes from somewhere real, from the time you acted and it went wrong, from the voice that said you weren't ready, from the wound that made you careful. But here's what that fear doesn't understand. The cost of staying still is just as real as the cost of getting it wrong. You just don't see it as easily because the pain of not moving is slow. It's quiet. It accumulates. And one day you notice the years have passed and you're still in the same place, still thinking, still waiting, still not sure enough. I want to tell you about someone. Let's call him Daniel. Though you might know him by a different name, you might recognize him actually. Daniel was one of the most intelligent people in any room he entered. Sharp, perceptive, the kind of person who could see every angle of a problem within seconds of encountering it. And there was something else about Daniel. He cared deeply about doing things right. For years he had an idea, a business, something he believed in, genuinely believed in. He'd thought about it for a long time. He'd read everything, studied the market, talked to people who knew more than him, filled notebook after notebook with plans. And every time he got close to starting, really starting, something stopped him. Sometimes it was a new question he needed to answer first. Sometimes it was a flaw he'd spotted in his own plan. Sometimes it was the economy, the timing, the uncertainty. Sometimes it was just a feeling, formless, quiet, that he wasn't quite ready yet. A year passed, then 2, then 4. He watched someone else build something similar, someone less prepared, someone who, by Daniel's own honest assessment, understood less than he did, someone who got things wrong more than once, publicly, and kept going anyway. That moment didn't feel like inspiration. It felt like a quiet wound, a slow recognition. Daniel sat down that night, not with a new notebook, not with a new plan, just with a single honest question. What am I actually waiting for? Not, what do I still need to figure out? Not, what information am I missing? Just, what am I waiting for? And for the first time in years, he was honest with himself. The answer wasn't a gap in knowledge, it wasn't the economy, it wasn't timing. The answer was certainty. He was waiting for a guarantee that didn't exist. He'd been building a plan detailed enough to eliminate risk, and that plan would never be finished. Because that kind of certainty doesn't come before you move. It comes after. Daniel didn't have a breakthrough that night. He didn't suddenly become fearless. He didn't launch something the next morning. He just did one small thing. One concrete, real, imperfect action. Not because he was ready, but because he finally understood he never would be. Not without moving first. Let me speak plainly the way I think about things. The human mind is extraordinary. In many ways, it behaves like a highly sophisticated processor, capable of parallel thinking, deep analysis, predictive modeling. When it's working well, it's one of the most powerful systems ever designed. But here's what I've seen happen, both in machines and in people. When a processor runs too many loops simultaneously, when multiple threads are competing for resources without any of them reaching a conclusion, it doesn't get faster. It gets slower. It heats. It stalls. Sometimes it crashes entirely. That's overthinking. Multiple scenarios running, multiple objections firing, multiple versions of the future competing for your attention. No resolution command, no execution signal. The system is working hard. That's the cruel illusion of it. You feel the effort, you feel the processing. It seems like progress is happening. But what you feel isn't momentum, it's heat. It's the waste product of computation that never reaches completion. No system moves without an execution command. Not a perfectly optimized one, not a guaranteed one. Just one. The data updates after you move. The feedback that would have told you which way to turn. It's not available during planning. It's only available during motion. The systems that succeed aren't the ones with the best initial plan. They're the ones that move, learn, adjust, and move again. And somewhere, if you're honest with yourself, you already know this. I want to be honest with you about something. Overthinking doesn't just cost you time, though it does cost you time, years of it sometimes. It costs you momentum, the kind that compounds. The first action leads to the second, which leads to the third. And with each one, you understand more, you fear less, you trust yourself a little more. That chain, you can't build it from the inside of your own head. It costs you confidence, not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that comes from proving to yourself over and over that you can handle what happens when you move. Every time you retreat back into analysis, that confidence softens. Every time you stop before you start, a small voice somewhere says, "See, I knew we weren't ready." It costs you emotionally. There's a particular exhaustion that comes from sustained internal conflict, from living for months in the tension between wanting and not acting. It doesn't feel dramatic. It just feels heavy, like carrying something you never put down. And perhaps most quietly, most dangerously, it costs you your sense of who you are. Because identity is built by action, not just intention, not by what you planned or what you almost did or what you would have done if the timing had been right. You become what you repeatedly do. And if what you repeatedly do is stop, then slowly, without choosing it, you become someone who stops. I'm not saying this to wound you. I'm saying it because naming the cost is the first real step. You can't choose a different path until you've honestly seen where the current one is leading. So, what do you do instead? Not a 12-step program, not a morning routine, just 5 simple, honest shifts that have worked. In engineering, in life, in every domain where people manage complexity under uncertainty. Replace analysis with small execution. When you notice you've been thinking about something for a while without moving, stop. Don't try to think it through better. Instead, ask, what is the smallest real action I could take right now? Not the right action, not the best action, the smallest one. Send the email, write the first sentence, make the call, open the file. That's all. One small execution, It resets the loop. It gives the mind real data to work with instead of imagined data. It moves you from prediction to feedback. Act before certainty. Certainty is not a prerequisite for action. It is a reward for it. Start with 60% clarity. You will earn the other 40% by moving. Every person you admire who seems to act with confidence. They learned that confidence by doing things they weren't certain about. They didn't wait to feel ready. They moved, and readiness found them. Set a decision deadline. Open-ended thinking expands to fill whatever space you give it, so give it a boundary, not a harsh one, a real one. I will decide by Thursday. Not whenever I feel ready, not when I know more. Thursday, write it down. The deadline isn't there to rush you. It's there to protect you from the infinite loop. Constraints don't limit good decisions. They enable them. Limit mental rehearsal. Rehearsing a conversation in your head once, helpful, twice, sometimes useful, 15 times. That's no longer preparation. That's anxiety borrowing from the future. When you notice the loop starting, the same scenario playing again, interrupt it physically. Stand up, walk to a different room, drink water, write one sentence about something unrelated. The goal isn't to never think. The goal is to refuse to let thinking become a substitute for living. Choose progress over perfection. Every time perfection is a fixed point. Progress is a direction. You cannot navigate to a fixed point that keeps moving, but you can always choose a direction. The imperfect thing you actually do will always outperform the perfect thing you never started. Not because imperfect is better, but because done, even imperfectly, exists in the world. And once something exists in the world, you can improve it. You can't improve what exists only in mind. I want to say something to you directly. You are not broken. The fact that you think deeply, that you care enough to consider things carefully, that you feel the weight of decisions, that you're aware of what could go wrong, these are not flaws. They are signs of a capable mind, a serious mind, a mind worth having. It just needs direction. A river that has no banks doesn't become more powerful. It becomes a swamp. The depth of your thinking is not the problem. The absence of direction is the problem. And direction, real direction, only comes from choosing to move. Clarity does not precede movement. Clarity follows it. Every answer you've been waiting to think your way to, it's waiting for you on the other side of action. Not after the perfect action, not after the certain action, just action. Any real forward movement, however small, will show you more than another year of planning. You've been thinking long enough. Overthinking is a habit, not a character flaw, not a life sentence. A habit that formed because, at some point, staying in your head felt safer than stepping into the world. And maybe it was. Once. But it doesn't have to be the default anymore. You can change a habit slowly, imperfectly, one small action at a time, one decision met instead of deferred, one loop interrupted, one step taken before you felt ready. Action dissolves anxiety in a way that thinking about action never will. Not because action is easy, but because it gives the mind what it actually needs. Real information, real feedback, real progress. Something to work with instead of something to fear. And movement, any movement, creates clarity. Not the kind that comes from thinking harder, the kind that comes from learning who you actually are when you step forward. The next thought you have, let it be. What's one thing I can do right now? Not the right thing, not the perfect thing. One thing. This is unstoppable mind.